Hello everyone, welcome to the PinkUn YouTube channel. I'm Connor Southwell, Norwich City reporter for the EDP Evening News and the PinkUn. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Clive Whittingham of LoftForWords. Jordan Hugill has signed for Norwich City, undisclosed fee. Norwich City adding to their striking ranks alongside Timu Puki and Adam Ida, and they've added someone who, at least from the outside at least, doesn't look like that he fits the profile of a Norwich City signing that we've seen under Stuart Webber and Daniel Farke. Clive is hopefully going to be able to offer some insight. So, Clive, let's start with you. Jordan Hugill signing for Norwich City. Obviously, spent last season on loan at QPR from West Ham. Are you, and I guess, are you and other QPR supporters a little bit gutted that he hasn't returned to Loftus Road?
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed he's not coming back, which I guess is good for you guys. It tells you the sort of season he had and the impact he had with us. I think he might surprise you a little bit. I mean, he is basic champion. He's a very basic sort of championship striker in one respect, but QPR played quite progressive, very attacking football under Mark Warburton with a lot of ball on the ground, and he fitted in really well to our team. So I don't think he's the untypical Norwich signing that maybe he looks on the face of it, because he fitted in really well with us last year, and we're disappointed he's not coming back. I mean, that's the financial situation that we're in at the moment. We can't compete on wages, the sort of money he's been paid at West Ham. Norwich obviously went up, spent very little of your television money, have now come back with a parachute payment. So as soon as clubs like that come in for players we're interested in, it kind of blows us out the water a little bit. But it was us a few years ago doing that to other clubs, so we can't complain too much.
Absolutely. And just on what you said there about him playing in a fairly progressive side, this is something I wanted to pick up on, because actually he probably, rightly or wrongly, gets perceived as like a battering ram, I guess, doesn't he? I wonder if that sort of stems from his Preston days, and I think he probably does have that to his game, doesn't he? But equally, you said there that he did fit in quite well in a progressive style of play, which I think will interest Norwich City fans who are watching this.
Yeah, I mean, he is championship. I'm very surprised that West Ham paid the money they did and the wage they did to take him to the Premier League. Might have something to do with the fact that David Moyes' brother is his agent, because he's certainly not an £8 million player and a £37,000 a week player. He's just, bless him, we love him, but he's not that. QPR play. I mean, you look at the stats for QPR last year. I think only Brentford and Leeds scored more goals than us, and only Luton conceded more, and we finished in the middle of the league. And that basically tells you everything about the way we play. It's just all-out attack, and the defence is absolutely all over the place. I guess to a certain extent, the one thing you might want to be wary of is that everybody scored goals in that QPR team. Like Nahki Wells had his best championship goal-scoring season. Jordan Hugill's 15 goals, he got 13 in the league and 2 in the cup, is the best goal-scoring season he's had in his career. Abiri Eze had his best goal-scoring season. Bright Samuel. I mean, just to a certain extent, the way we play, whoever plays up front for us is going to score goals, which might be a concern. And you need to brace yourself for a lot of missed chances. I mean, for the goals he does get, he misses some absolute sitters. I mean, you might want to treat yourselves to highlights of our 3-1 home win against Wigan last season, which, I mean, he scores from 20 yards. It's an incredible goal. But just before that, he misses one. I've never seen the likes of it before from any player at any level of football. We still don't really know how he did it. And there was a lot of that. It's a lot of his technique can sometimes be a little bit, you can see, his non-league background in, and there's a lot of leaning back on finishes and things like that. But, there was some really good goals in there as well. 15 goals. He led the line well. I mean, just to speak to his character as well, QPR have relied on loan players quite a lot over the last few seasons, and some of them have been decent, like Nahki Wells, and some of them have just not been asked, like Tom Ahmed. And Hugill was definitely in the former camp. He actually, prior to lockdown, was playing through a painful injury, which then required surgery at the start of the lockdown. He then came back and played in the summer fixtures. That's not the sort of thing that you usually get off a loan player. They'd usually just sack that off. I think he was playing for us with pain-killing injections just because he wanted to play. So, he's obviously a decent lad as well.
Talk us through some of those goals, or the type of goals that he did score for you guys. You said a few sort of decent 20-yard strikes, maybe not so much from inside the area, but was there a sort of mix to his goals in terms of perhaps headed goals? Because that's the interesting element for me, the fact that Norwich City aren't really a team, and they don't really play under Daniel Farke with the aim of getting crosses into the box. And if he scored a lot of headed goals for QPR, then that probably suggests a little bit of a mismatch in terms of how Norwich play, or how they did play last season.
Yeah, that is interesting because we've got a fullback, Ryan Manning, who can't defend, but is one of the best attacking fullbacks in the division, and he's got incredible assist stats. So we've got quite a lot of Hugill's output seem to come from these crosses from deep on the left. We scored a goal against Fulham in lockdown, which was fairly typical. But, he volleyed one in from the edge of the area against Swansea, volleyed one in from ridiculous distance at Middlesbrough and popped his hamstring doing it as well. So it was a mix of goals. How much of that is him, and how much of it's just, like I say, playing in a team that just commits everything to attack and doesn't really care about defence? I guess we'll find out when he comes to you. But that is odd, signing a player like Hugill if you're not going to put crosses in the box. And we did that with Matt Smith once. So he's a better player than Matt Smith, to be fair. But
And what did he play as a one or in a two? Because I think he played in the two alongside Nahki Wells, didn't he, for a little while? And them two seem to strike up quite a good relationship. Obviously, you're closer to the club than I am.
we play basically Warburton always plays 4-2-3-1 or a version of that. So Hugill was the one, but when we had him and Wells, Warburton being Warburton just took one of the two deep lying midfielders out and played 4-1-3-2 for a little while, which was just, frightening at times to watch. But so yeah, Hugill played up front with Wells, and then obviously a similar situation where Bristol City could pay Wells more money and offer him a 3.5-year contract happened in January. So we lost Wells, and then Hugill played basically as one in a 4-2-3-1 for all of the second half of the season, split either side of the lockdown.
That's interesting. Where do you see Hugill fitting into this Norwich side? You've obviously seen the way they play in terms of a couple of seasons ago, and the way that Daniel Farke did like to set up. Obviously, the Premier League season sort of derailed a bit towards the end, but what sort of role do you see him playing in this Norwich side, which is, as you've touched upon, maybe has sort of similar elements to what Mark Warburton has tried to do at QPR in terms of a possession-based team?
What Hugill can do is kind of what Heider Helgason used to do for us the last time we had a good team, which is be a focal point and occupy defenders. He's big and physical. He bashes people around. He always comes off covered in mud. And then if you're playing 4-2-3-1 and you've got three sort of more technical, talented players behind him, then he can bring them into play by occupying the defenders further up. And Helgason used to do that for us with Tarat and Routledge, Ephraim, Tommy Smith and people like that. And Hugill was doing it last year for Bright Say, Samuel, Eze, Chair, the players that we've got there now. I'm interested by Norwich because obviously you've already signed 10 players, I think. So it's a complete overhaul. I'm interested to know because you lost basically your last 11 games of the season, I think, and scored 2-3 goals, and there were a couple of 3s, 4s and 5s in there. With the short turnaround, even with all these players coming in, I'm really interested to know whether a team can just turn it off and on like that. We've had friendlies and we've signed players, so now we're suddenly going to start winning again. I'm intrigued to know not only what your starting 11 looks like after all these signings, but also whether you're going to be able to hit the ground running after, that weird, just sort of, we've given up now end to last season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think Norwich fans are probably with you in that. It's going to be interesting to see, because I think we've seen Watford and Bournemouth probably go for the change in head coach approach. Norwich City have gone very much with the stay with the head coach and almost changed the squad. And although we haven't seen too many outgoings yet, so it is a fairly bloated squad as we sit here. Obviously, Jordan Hugill will be joining that. What sort of player is he off the ball? What sort of runs does he make? Is he one that does look to perhaps drop in short, or is he one that does look to work the channels and stretch the game a little bit?
Yeah, a bit of both. He'll drop short off a defence, receive and give wide, and then at other times he'll spin into the channels. But basically, he likes the sort of physical confrontation side of the game. You might want to keep an eye on his haircuts. I know that sounds ridiculous. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it became a bit of a thing at QPR last year where I don't even know how to describe it, but he came back from the lockdown looking like he'd spent lockdown in the Battle of the Bands competition at the Red Car Walkabout, and it became a thing where we had to think of as many 90s grungy boy band pop references as we could to describe him. So, he's a bit of a character. I think someone described him as, I think he might have even described himself as a Love Island contender in waiting. So he's a bit of a character. He's good to have around the place, I guess.
He's going to have some competition with Todd Cantwell then next season.
Yeah, him and Todd Cantwell. Yeah, okay, right.
Absolutely. I think that's just about it. Unless there's anything you'd like to add on Hugill, or say that perhaps we haven't mentioned already. I think that's a pretty decent insight into him.
Yeah, no, I'm just really bloody annoyed, mate, to be perfectly honest. So, you're intruding on private grief here.
Well, first Naki Wells and now Jordan Hugill. That's that strike partnership gone for you, isn't it?
It's just where we are. We've obviously finally this summer been able, by shopping in Scotland, which is like, football Lidl, I guess, to own a striker for the first time. We tried shopping in Europe for people like Poulter and Silla that with moderate success. Then we tried the loan market, and like I say, they either do so well for you that they end up going elsewhere, or they're not asked. So we've just got this Lyndon Dykes lad down from Livingston that's more in our price range than Hugill is. So we've basically got all the chips placed on him for next season, no pressure. But yeah, we've got used to, if you rely on the loan market, like I say, this is going to happen, but doesn't make it any easier. I really must stop getting emotionally attached to loan players.
I'm sure Norwich fans can relate with that. That's certainly the case with Jordan Rhodes a couple of seasons ago. While I've got you here, it seems sort of apt to ask you about maybe success in the Championship, because obviously you'll know, being a QPR fan, what it's like to not get trapped is probably the wrong terms, but perhaps to get it a little bit wrong in terms of how you approach the division, and maybe in probably your club's problems probably stem back from that season in the Premier League that perhaps it's become a little bit infamous. But how do Norwich City go about bouncing back at the first time? Because I think there's only 10 teams that have done it in recent times.
I think you've already done the right thing for me. And our biggest problem was that we went into the Premier League twice. We've made a mess of it twice, gone up, spent the money, and come back like with a team that was no better than the one we went up with all the money gone, and also a load of players that we can't afford to keep. So, that's what. When we went up, we spent all of the television money on dickheads like Joey Barton and Jose Basingua and Julio Cesar, and just, gave it the Bertie Big Potatoes routine for a few years. And then when we came back, we, the money had gone. We hadn't invested in the infrastructure. The team had to be pulled apart because we couldn't afford to keep it, and we kind of had to start all over again. And then you end up in this cycle where you're then spending your parachute payments on more players, and then they've gone. And so for me, Norwich have already done it right to a certain extent, like Burnley did. You've gone up, taken that money. Now you've got the parachute payment. It's important now that you do go back up. Apart from that little worry about will you be able to turn it round those 11 games? Apart from that worry, I think you'll be fine, because I think the division looks pretty weak this year anyway. So as long as you can hit the ground running, I think after those 11, 12 game run that you've had, I think you'll be okay. Because like I say, I think you've done the hardest bit. It's going up, taking the money, and not doing a QPR or a Fulham, or if Villa had got relegated, the state that they would have been in would have been interesting. They've obviously managed to scrape up, so I don't think you'll have too much problem.
And just finally then, talk us a little bit about QPR and what perhaps the aspirations are for this season. You say it was mid-table in Mark Warburton's first year, but we tried to change the style of football a little bit.
Well, to get out of that, we came down the last time with a wage bill of 80 million quid for the year, and we've over the last 4 or 5 years got that down to a sort of 16, 18 million pound level, which is where it needs to be. But that's taken some doing, and it's hard to just keep chucking out top earners and signing players on less money without getting significantly worse. So we've managed that, and we've basically been 16th in the league for about 5 years now, and I can't really see it being a lot different next year. We've got to aspire to better than that soon, because people are going to start getting aggy with it. I think the crowd have mostly been quite understanding with the mess that we were in and how long it's taken to get out. This season, last season we scored more goals, won more games, won more away games, played better football, brought young players through. It was an improvement on the McLaren season the season before. So I guess, we just have to hope that this season's like a bit better again still. So, that's pretty meagre ambitions, and people would maybe, maybe say that's a lack of ambition. But the state that we got ourselves in, it was always going to take a long time to turn around. A lot's going to hinge on whether Eze leaves and for how much we get. If we could get the 20-25 million sort of James Maddison money for Eze, then that could be transformational for us. If he ends up sticking around till his contract ends, then it's a bit sort of eye-rolly, and we're going to have a problem there. So we're waiting to see how much we get for him, and bright to say Samuel, I think a lot of it hangs on that.
It's going to be interesting. I think QPR are a club that, like you said, they seem to be rebuilding. They seem to put a lot of focus on the youth a bit more now, which seems to be, I think, the way to go, particularly in the Championship, as Norwich have proven that you can have success by doing. And of course, if you do sell Izzy, then Norwich are another good example of that. Sold James Maddison for big money and won the league the year after. So it's not impossible.
That's exactly what we're, everything crossed for that. I know it seems counterintuitive to want to sell your best player, but we really need some serious wedge for him if this long road back that we're on is gonna speed up any, I guess.
Interesting. Clive, thank you very much for your insight. I'll leave all of Clive's links down below. You can check him out. Everything QPR, he's the man to go to. We'll also put links to his Twitter and stuff as well, so you can follow him there. And of course, if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the PinkUn YouTube channel as well. Plenty more content coming your way from pre-season. Paddy's in Germany to follow Norwich City's progression there. And of course, we're all gearing up back for the big return on the 12th. Norwich City travel to Huddersfield Town to kickstart their Championship campaign. Thank you very much for watching. Keep safe, and we'll see you all very, very soon.